I was surprised that I got all that attention. Secondly, it was naturally painful, hurtful. I mean, I was a worldwide trending topic at that time, and not for the right reasons. The way I dealt with it, having been around the business, you develop some thick skin. You know, you don't have to, you kind of teach yourself, or you force yourself not to take it personally. We had a dialect coach in Heeramandi, all of us, you know, just getting the phonetics right, getting the whole rhythm of it right, and that was a huge help. There was Munira ji, who deserves to be acknowledged for it. She helped all of us, you know. Yes, of course, it was always annoying as hell when dialogues were changed, because you just spent this hour doing learning that and doing it, getting it right, and now you had a new scene. Aditi did a fantastic job.
100%.
You know, she just was so easy with it, and the grace, and you know, the way with which she, you know, was in the moment. You know, I mean, was truly commendable. So you know, full credit to her.
Hello everybody, I'm Rudrani and welcome to Zoom Speak Easy. My guest today is so interesting and special. He ruled the 2000s, he was the chocolate boy then, and after that today he's here with kind of the 2.0 version. Still charming as ever and still relentless in what he does. I'm talking about the very charismatic Fardeen Khan. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you for that introduction.
I meant every word though.
You were too kind.
It is true, Fardeen. You were the chocolate boy of 2000. Everywhere you went, you know, you had a massive female following, actually both, all genders included. And you were given a lot of love. But I've heard also, off the camera, you were also respected for the kind of person you were. How have you managed to sort of stay in that world of yours and kind of, you know, secure your private space, even though you were an actor, even back then though, I think?
I think I attribute a lot of it to my upbringing, you know, even though I grew up with where one of my parents was a public figure and celebrity, but you know, they wanted us to have as realistic, normal, organic upbringing as possible. So we were consciously shielded from, you know, whatever comes with being in a family that's in the public eye. You know, so things were kept very real. You know, we were never ever made to feel we were entitled. You know, the basics, you know, a lot of emphasis was paid on that: courtesy, manners, respect, you know, discipline, you know, these were just basic things. So to whatever extent they could give us as realistic an upbringing as possible, that's what we were given. And I think that's what's carried us through, you know. I mean, keeping it real, you know, yes, this is work, this is what one does for a living, but this is life, you know. There was a, you know, so that's something probably I would say that I've consciously been aware of, that, you know, there's work, and then this is me as a person. You know, I've always been able to draw that line. You know, my work, because of course this is a very unique profession, doesn't entitle me to be, you know, any kind of person, you know, or take things for granted, or think that, you know, I am more privileged than others just because, you know, we are in the public eye, or we are celebrated by people or acknowledged. So that is something I've been very conscious about. That's how we were brought up. So I would, you know, I'd definitely attribute that to my mum and dad.
You're at a time when movies were different. You come back today to see that the world has drastically changed. When you stepped into this world after you were in your space, you know, you took that break and you thought, I am now going to come back. How was the time for you then? Which of course finally leads to Heeramandi. So I want to know the phase before that.
As you said, a lot had changed. I mean, let's start with the audiences. It was 12 years from my last release. I mean, 14 years from my last release.
Yes.
12 years since I started, since I worked in the movies. You're talking about just over half a generation. You know, you're talking about tastes having changed. You're talking about you know, the way films are written, the way protagonists are thought of, the way films are consumed. You know, so I literally thought and adopted the approach that I'm going to come back and just think of it as though I'm a newcomer, and that was it. Because I mean, you know, I mean, I carry some experience with me. You know, at the end of the day, yes, it comes down to telling a story, being part of telling a story. You know, it comes down to that creative process, which of course, you know, I've had 27 films to have taught me that. So, but reaching out to a whole new different audience who's not familiar with my work, you know, the fear of, do people still want to see you? Are they still interested in being entertained by you? You know, do you feel, you know, relevant in any way? You know, I mean, these are of course you know, fears which probably get amplified when you've taken such a longer break. I mean, such a long break, because it doesn't happen often that, you know, you go away for 14 years and when you come back, you know, your audience and people who followed your work or admired your work have stuck with you. And you know, I in that sense, I consider myself so grateful and so fortunate, you know, I received a lot of love, you know, and a lot of support and encouragement from you know, via my social media handle, and you know, just over the years. And you know, so it was extremely important, vital, encouraging, heartwarming, and gave me that confidence. You know, yes, there are some people who would still be interested in watching what I had to do. So you know, that was you know, sometimes I would say it was a life raft. You know, especially when you're coming back. You know, I went around, I met people, producers that I had worked with in the past. You know, some directors. I went and met Mukesh Chhabra, who's our you know, the Mukesh Chhabra, the casting genius. So I went and met him, and you know, people were happy to see me. They met me warmly. They were, you know, they thought, of course, they were happy to see that I had transformed physically. Of course, I've changed even since then. But you know, it was daunting. It was yes, it had inherent fears, but at the same time, it was inspiring. At the same time, it makes you, you know, just to rely on the basics.
Yes.
You know, you focus on the basics, that you know what works, what's within your control, your work, your commitment, your approach, your attitude, your respect for the people you work with. And you know, your humility, you're just part of telling a story, you know, trying to work with the best possible people at what they do. And in that sense, you know, I mean, I was very fortunate, you know, like Sanjay Gupta was the first person to sign me when I came back with Visfort, which will be releasing in August, I believe. That's a tentative date we have now. And after that came Heeramandi, and you know, that was huge for me, you know, to get an endorsement from you know, a maestro filmmaker, you know, genius of his generation, you know, Sanjay Leela Bhansali. So to be part of this ambitious project that was releasing worldwide, you know, gave me a lot of confidence and you know, a lot of encouragement to you know, feel secure. And you know, so it's having said that, you know, like I said, I just went back to the basics. This is something I want to do.
Yeah.
Something I'm committing myself to. went out there, made it known that you know, I'm here to work. I'm serious about my work. I'm back in Bombay. I'm settled here now. I live here now, because that's something that people thought I didn't do. And of course, I was away for a long time. So and that was it. And just be committed to what I was doing, and you know, it's so far so good. It's working out.
It is absolutely. So before, of course, we get into Heeramandi, I must bring up though, I think you've handled trolling and you've handled so many other, you know, things in your life with a lot of gumption. You were back from here, you were living your life, and then pictures went viral of you, and people kept on commenting and trolling and talking about your weight gain and everywhere, and they wrote really mean things. I remember a Facebook post that you put out saying, does this make you all happy? That post also was a reminder that it impacted you. For someone to go after somebody like that and to body shame them constantly and to really attack them, you put that post out. It was pretty evident that you've always in your life taken, done graceful silence in all periods of difficult periods of your time. But this time you chose to speak out because it did impact you a lot. I want to talk about how that phase was, and how did you deal with that, how it impacted your mental health, and also because, you know, there was so many things that you dealt with before that as well, you know, the grief of losing your father, then moving away and all of that.
Starting off, you know, I was not actively involved in the industry at all, mentally, emotionally. I was very, very cut off. So firstly, I was surprised to have got that attention, or, you know, but then of course you're quick to understand that people remembered you in a certain way, and they were, you know, surprised to see me having let myself go, you know, in the way that I had. I was not even active on social media, so in that sense, you know, I did have a Facebook account and I used it very rarely, but it was my welcome and introduction to to social media. I don't mean to you know, make light of the topic of trolling by laughing.
No, of course, I know what you mean.
But you know, it is a serious issue. And you know, for people who do get trolled, you know, it is painful, you know, and for whatever reason, you know, people seem to get joy from, you know, and from being mean, you know, behind the veil of some account, you know, because people in life, in person, are not like that. I mean, of course, they'll have an opinion, but if someone really had to be mean to you, so, you know, they would, you know, need to come up to your face and tell you that, and that's extremely rare. You know, that doesn't happen, and that's not how things are. I just think, you know, it's an issue which gives us all pause, should give us pause to really think of our own personal responsibility. I mean, I myself have found myself sometimes guilty of, I mean, I've never trolled anyone or, you know, written bad things, but sometimes it has a certain effect on you, and, you know, amongst a group of friends or whatever it is in private, you know, you do feel that you know, license to make light of situation, of a certain situation, or of someone's despair sometimes, and you know, and it's obviously you know, the responsible thing to do is not to, you know, put it out there, but of course, you know, I find myself also guilty. I have been guilty of it, especially amongst women, you know, trolling when it comes to body shaming and body image. It's a very serious issue with regards to mental health, and even suicide rates, which are on the up, you know, and there are a lot of countries currently which are actually considering restricting people of a certain age from social media. I think there's talk in certain European countries and the UK even, you know, where they're not going to allow people up to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 15 or 16 or something like that. I don't know how they're going to enforce it or control it. That's another aspect. But I was surprised that I got all that attention. Secondly, it was naturally painful, hurtful. I mean, I was a worldwide trending topic at that time, and not for the right reasons. You know, the way I dealt with it, having been around the business, you develop some thick skin. You know, you don't have to, you kind of teach yourself, or you force yourself not to take it personally, to whatever extent you can. You can find humor in it. You can, philosophize about it. You can learn from it. For me, I tried to do all three. It was a punch. I took it on the chin, but again, it made me ask myself, how much does it truly matter to me? Yes, it was a fact that I had let myself go. I had put on a lot more weight than I had any business putting on. I was not looking after myself, from a health point of view, or watching what I was eating, or training, or any of that stuff. And I could understand, why people would have a reaction like they did. But having said that, sometimes the extent of the degree and the intensity of the meanness was a bit of a revelation. Yeah. It does definitely surprise you that people would find joy in someone else's misery and despair or whatever. That was the extent of it. I mean, there are always people who, that's life. There are always people who will have an opinion, some for you, some not for you, some will mock you. I mean, that's okay. But the extent and the degree and the intensity of it was definitely revolutionary. So yes, it was. I dove into the deep end of social media head first,
head on
with that experience. But no, it was. I've always been taught to extract lessons from every experience to whatever extent you can. Yes, things can upset you. Yes, they can depress you. Yes, they can make you angry. These are all normal human reactions, and this is what we all celebrate as people, and that's what makes us human, and that's what connects us. So yes, all of those reactions are valid, but you have to, at some point, ask yourself some tough questions to what extent does this matter? This is a new technology. To what extent should you allow it into your life, or give it that kind of importance and validation? And then, hey, you just got to live and move on and just work on things within your control. There are very few things that are within our control. So you just work on that.
Among the very few self-aware actors, and also among the actors who don't mind being a little honest, because I remember post Prem Aggan, and even now, many years later, you took all the criticism and said that yes, and you've called yourself, yes, I think I was horrible in it. That phase, and then of course jumping back and then coming back to Pyar Tune Kya Kiya, because that was such a turn for you. People almost, you were written off. They said that this actor I don't think deserves to be here because he's so terrible. And you took that and you're like, I will not give up on myself. So I think it's kind of a thing that a lot of people would want to know, because you almost give up sometimes, right?
Oh yes, sure. Not everyone's story has a fairy tale ending.
Yeah.
I mean, 99% of the people, whatever they achieve in their life, whatever successes they enjoy, there's a lot of work, successes, failures, and a lot of learning in that whole process. Yeah. So then again, I took it as a learning experience. I took it as a time to pause. I took it as a time to introspect. Yes, there were disappointments. Yes, my expectations were not met. Yes, I had certain notions of it. But when I actually look back, I believe I was extremely raw, extremely inexperienced, and I wasn't ready. And that is, I always believe is the best place to start, is to just be honest with yourself. I mean, and from then on, it was just about learning and improving and committing to, being part of telling a story, and just trying to better yourself at what you do. I've had, the good fortune of working with some wonderful people, and my second film was Jungle,
Jungle.
which was directed by Ram Gopal
Ram
Verma,
Gopal.
someone whose work I had admired, someone whose, you know, approach to life and philosophy and thinking and my interactions really helped me reflect and introspect. And you know, he really helped me, you know, find myself, my voice as an actor, because I did 3 very different movies. Bhoot was still later. There was Jungle, there was Pyar Tune Kya Kiya, and there was Love Ke Liye Kuch Bhi Karega. So there were 3 different genres that I was pretty much doing simultaneously.
Yeah.
And you know, I just put my head down and I just you know, learned from, you know, people I was working with, you know, from my fellow actors. You know, I'm grateful to all of them for their patience, for the directors I've worked with, for the writers, and you know, all my coaches, whether it was for my language or my diction or whatever it was. You know, I mean, these are all things that I just you know, just genuinely felt that I needed to work on, and I didn't think I was good enough, and that's the approach I followed.
You know, Fardeen, it's so interesting, isn't it? You were chided for your Hindi and said that Hindi film mein inki Hindi nahi chalne wali hai, and said stuff like that at the time. And you worked on your Hindi and you worked with Heeramandi to show that focus is so much on dialect. Look how the life comes in a circle for you, isn't it? Because in that beginning, they kept talking about the accent that you have and that you're not Hindi enough and that you're not Indian enough for the masses to connect. That was the criticism that was often given to you, right?
In the maybe in the early years.
Early, of course.
Yeah.
Very early years.
You know, I think it was a challenge for all the actors. You know, the Urdu, even though they kept it relatable and they kept it simple, but you know, it has its own rhythm, it has its own sound, and if it's not your first language, you know, and we had a dialect coach in Heeramandi, all of us, you know, just getting the phonetics right, getting the whole rhythm of it right, and that was a huge help. There was Munira ji, who deserves to be acknowledged for it. She helped all of us, you know. Yes, of course, it was always annoying as hell when dialogues were changed, because you just spent this hour doing learning that and doing it, getting it right, and now you had a new scene. So yeah, those days you would tear your hair out. That's part of it. That's part of the process. Yeah. But it's what we do. I mean, language is such an integral part, such an important part, probably the most important part of your job. And you know, it's what we do, and you know, that's, you just have to put in the work to get it right.
We're talking about Heeramandi, so we must talk about Bibbo Jan and the very viral Muja walk. You were a very integral part of that scene, that every time today you go on Instagram, Hatujao comes in, and that particular part, and we all know that the rose has been given to you. You saw it there. Tell us a little on how you looked at it, and of course the viral nature of it today.
That was the, well, firstly, I mean, I think Aditi did a fantastic job.
100%.
You know, she just was so easy with it, and the grace, and you know, the way with which she, you know, was in the moment, you know, I mean, was truly commendable. So you know, full credit to her. You know, it's always between action and cut. You know, it's the actor. You know, so she did a marvelous job. That was the first the first day.
Yeah.
My first day shooting on Heeramandi, and of course Sanjay sir was directing it, and of course I was nervous, anxious, excited, all of it. Playing a Nawab, being on this set, you know, it was all very intimidating, you know, and of course I'd never ever experienced anything like that before. And a few hundred people on that set, and you know, but after, of course, I found my comfort zone, and you know, throughout the song, it was me observing, reacting to watching her dance, and Aditi and me still joke about this. And I said, you know, Aditi, I think I could easily get used to this. You know, just sitting there, you know, I had this hookah and this wine and there's these fruits, and you know, watching this, you know, beautiful lady dance so gracefully. You know, I said, yeah, Aditi, I could get used to this. So
and then throwing rose at you like that.
Throwing, yes. So it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
you know,
but you must be delighted to see the kind of love that particular song has got.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, it was conceived so well, the characterization, you know, the sets, the costumes, the choreography, and of course, Aditi herself, and the director that was being directed by Mr. Bhansali. So, you know, I mean, it was all conceived beautifully. It all came together beautifully, and it's quite apparent why it's gone viral, and she owned that walk.
She owned it.
she owns it. It's gonna haunt her forever.
There have been people who've also found out little inaccuracies, pointed out, saying that, you know, a little bit of critical observations about the way the era and all of that. You as an audience, when you watch the series, I'm going to ask you this question that way. How did you look at this conversation that I'm talking about? And yeah.
I'm no expert on the time. I had no reference point. It was a fictional story.
Sure.
Made, you know, it was a fascinating whole era.
Sure.
And there were a lot of dynamics of the time that they were attempting to bring into the time. So I think they did a marvelous job, you know, showing it through the lives of these, you know, 5 women, and you know, how they navigated, you know, the politics and the power, and you know, how they empowered themselves, and through, whether it was through art, culture, and dance, and whatever else you know, the sometimes the good aspects of it, the dark side of it. What did, you know, I didn't get surprised by it, but it was really fascinating and interesting to watch the extent to which Sanjay and his writing team revealed the dark side. You know, and I had more of a reaction to that. You know, on one side you have this whole glamorous aspect of it, you know, and then on the other side you have the reality of it, whether it's, you know, from Alamzeb's story to any of the other, you know, Richa's, you know, or Sanjida's, you know, all of them had some, you know, the politics within, the interpersonal relationships, the interpersonal politics. And it was just fascinating, but it was you know, raw human nature, because you know, these characters, they lived in a world where shame and guilt were stripped away. You know, so it was fascinating to see that and present it through, you know, the culture of you know, courtesans, and you know. And that too at a time when there was so much happening in India, and pitching a love story in there, and watching, you know, from the point of view of, you know, when we were a colony, and the freedom movement, and it's just fascinating. And the Nawabs, and you know, the politics they played, and it's a fascinating tale. There was so many dynamics, you know, and I'm so happy. And you know, I mean, these are the great things that are happening, you know, in the industry today as a result of these new technologies. So these are one of the great changes that have happened.
You know, you said that, and I must say that, like you in real life, even the only Nawab out there who actually was at that border, kind to empathize with the women, even in the storyline. So that was really interesting. You
know, he was someone, you know, that was pretty much the brief that I was also given about him. But he was someone who truly respected, you know, the feelings of the courtesan, and he was actually in love with Bibbo. You know, there was a scene that didn't make it to the final cut, where the actual breakup takes place. You know, and where she actually tells him that you know, he's no longer going to be, you know, her sahab, and she's going to be performing her akhri mujra, and it was a very, very poignant and very, very touching scene. But yes, that was definitely a very interesting dynamic. I mean, again, it was crafted in very, very well, where every aspect, because to show everything in one character would obviously be impossible to do. So I mean, he showed the different aspects of the choices these people had to make, because I mean they had so much power, and wealth.
One thing about the show that was, along with, like I said, among all the good things has also been pointed out about Sharmin's acting and all of that. You as a co-star, you've been there, you've been on sets, you've been in promotions, all the promotional interviews have been come dissected, saying that she's rude to her co-stars, and I saw Richard's post coming out and saying that. What are your thoughts on it? Because you've been seeing you've worked with her, not so much, right, on the sets. The scenes were more differently, but you've met her during the promotions and everything else, and you see what has happened post. That's a part of the whole thing as well.
I think it's extremely unfortunate, the whole trolling aspect of it. Everyone has a right to, like or unlike someone's performance, but this whole trolling aspect is something that's just simply wrong and not done. And I believe she's done a very, very decent job in Heeramandi. She had a very complex, challenging role, and she was working with some mega talent out there. And I mean, for me, she came across strong. I think it was a great start to her for her career, and and as far as acting in general. So having said that, this aspect of trolling is definitely, I mean, I have been a victim of it myself. It's unfortunate, sign of the times. It is what it is. You got to develop some thick skin, and yes, when it's wrong, you got to speak up and call it wrong. So it reveals more about the people trolling than about the person being trolled. And that's what I think you have to just think about it as. And
you have been loved for some of your comedy films, and No Entry being some of the favorites, among the favorites, fan favorites that are there, right? And I really enjoyed No Entry myself. I remember I spoke to Boniji recently, and Boniji said that even Anilji is a little upset because there was a time when it was almost fixed that all three of you are going to be there with 9 heroines, and the script pretty much remains the same. I spoke to Boniji about it.
Hilarious script as well.
And he said, yeah, it's great, but he said, times had changed, so we decided to take Diljit and we decided to take, other people in it, but this was almost finalized, and Anilji is upset because he didn't know about it at the time. But you've been a part of the franchise as well. You were also said that it was fixed. How do you look at that? Because I think the fans were very excited. And yeah, but the franchise continues. We hope that something else comes in.
I mean, the talk of No Entry has been going on for so long. I think since 2014, 15, I've been in touch with Boni, been in touch with Salman. It's happening in 6 months, it's happening in 8 months. I mean, that's basically how it's been. So obviously, there was this anticipation, there was this love for the movie, the audience's love for the film, our love for our characters, and it just everything worked really, really well, and we were all really excited to be a part of the sequel. And besides, Anis has written a hysterical script. I mean, when I heard it, I couldn't stop laughing. And of course, it was disappointing it didn't work out, but that happens sometimes too. Sure. It is what it is. As far as the new casting and for Boni, I have only a lot of love, and I only wish him all the best, and I wish all the actors who are going to be in this film all the best. It's a great franchise, and just don't mess it up, man.
Please don't, right?
Don't, yeah. Then I'll be upset.
But you also have Kill Kill Me, of course, so that's one thing to look forward to. I think it's comedy back. You're back in comedy.
Yes, that has a comedy dynamic to it, but that's more inherent in people's stories. It's no one trying to be funny, but yes, there is a lot of humor. And it's very entertaining, and it's brilliantly written by Mudassar Aziz, who I did Dulha Mil Gaya with. So it was great for me to be associated with him again, and work with Akshay again. Both my films have been with I worked with Ritesh in Hey Baby and Akshay in Hey Baby as well. So just to get back to working with them again has been fantastic. And Khel Khel Mein was it's got a wonderful star cast. It's an ensemble piece, of course, led by Akshay. But it's got Taapsee, there's Amy, there's Pragya, there's Aditya, and Vani, and myself. So I'm very excited about that, and Visfort as well. That's a crime thriller, again, a genre I haven't done before, a role I've never done before. Of course, and working with Ritesh was also very special, and Kuki Gulhati, who I've done some ads with previously, who I've known over the years from my Provoke days. So just working with people who've grown up watching, who I've worked with previously, and some who've keenly followed my work has always been has been very, very special. And I'm extremely excited to see people seeing me in these different roles and seeing me doing stuff that I haven't done. Of course, there's been a long gap, but yeah.
No, thank you so much, first of all. And we're cheering for you. It will be so much fun to see you again do comedy.
You.
And I'm sure everybody's rooting for you, Fardeen.
No, thank you. That's always wonderful to hear, and I count all my blessings. But thank you. I enjoyed our chat a lot.
Of course.
It's
Thank you so
been
much.
fun. Thank you.